Welcome everybody, it's Debbie O'Neill of Scrummy Quick Designs, and today the tutorial is going to be about putting together a pop-up card from Miss Kate Cuttables' Giftables image set. This is part of the Cricut's Giftery Digital Mystery Box set that's available right now. I'll link that up in the description of the video. There are 5 image sets plus 10 fonts as part of that digital mystery box, and this is one of those. So today's tutorial, we're going to be making the pop-up card. Everybody asked if I would show them how to do that, so let's get started. Now I will be making the Snowman card. When it comes into your Design Space screen, it is already sized and it comes in group. So it's already, the envelope, the card, and the front of the card are already sized. You don't have to do any resizing, so that's awesome. Now you can look over in your layers panel in the color sync up here in the layers side of the screen, hit color sync, and you'll see that all the pieces are split out by the color that they had in the file. Now what I did with mine was I moved, there were like 2 shades of red, and I didn't want to have 2 shades of red, so I just moved one of those images up to one of the reds, so that then all of the reds are going to cut out of the same piece of paper. And I did the same thing. There were a couple of shades, there was 2 shades of green. I didn't see any reason to have 2 shades of green, so I moved that up so that it was into just 1 shade of green, just to limit the amount of colors that I have to have. Okay, it's just something that you can do when you're working with your cut files. And so now I've got it down to just these colors of cardstock that I need to pull, and then I'll be ready to start my project. Okay, so once you've picked your pop-up card that you want to make, of course you're going to select whatever materials that you want to cut. So I've got a combination of cardstock, some foil cardstock, and some glitter cardstock that I'll be using on mine, and I'll be using a light grip Cricut mat to cut that with my Cricut. And then just make sure you put it, if you change the cardstock type, make sure you change your setting in Design Space to the appropriate setting before you cut. All right, so all of that will cut out perfectly. I do recommend a few things for you to have on hand for this project. So definitely use your little scraper tool, because some of these pieces, when you cut them out, are going to be very fine. Okay, like this little branch. So this helped me get up underneath that on the mat and be able to lift this off easily. Also, a pair of tweezers will be helpful, because there's some tiny pieces that you're going to be placing. And the scraper tool is good for cleaning off your mat after you get the cuts done. And then to adhere the pieces, you will need to have a tape runner of some kind to put the pieces together. And then a glue pen is what I recommend. This is a chisel tip glue pen. This one is a close to my heart one, dual action glue pen, or they make one a Zig 2-way glue pen that you can get on Amazon or at the craft stores. And then for the envelope, because there is a matching envelope for this card, I'm going to be using some double-sided adhesive tape to hold that envelope together. This is Score Pal tape. It's my favorite double-sided adhesive. And because we want that envelope to really stay stuck and not come apart. And sometimes when you use a tape runner and they're tugging on the envelope, it may pop open. So I always use this. So those are the supplies that you're going to need for this particular project. And then go ahead, get your project cut out, and then I'll be back to show you how to assemble it. Okay, so once you get all your pieces cut out, what I recommend you do is, following your image on the Design Space file, go ahead and start separating the pieces into the different sections so that you know what's going to go where. So I've already done that. I've taken each of the pieces off the mat and then separated them into groupings based on what of these images that it matches up with. So that'll help speed you along as you go to assemble them. So I have already taken all the pieces that were for the snowman and kind of set them up. I have not glued it yet, because I want to do that with you so you know where things go. And then also for what's going to go on the front of the card, we have that here as well. And the front of the card layer, all right. And we have the envelope, which we'll put together last. And then we have our 2 pieces that are going to be what makes the card base. All right. So you're going to have one I don't know what colors you made yours, so I'm just going to go with this, just showing you. So I kind of tried to follow the colors that were in the Design Space file. So this is kind of a medium shade of blue, and it has the one score line in the middle. Okay, so just fold your card over along that score line, just like that. Then open it back up and you'll see that you have your score line. Now we're going to take this piece, and this is what creates the pop-up part. All right, so the other piece of card has a score line across the middle, and then it's got this slit here, and there's a score line right here. Okay, so the two on the base of the card go in just like you would do a regular card, like we folded here. We just folded that down just like that. But this piece, instead of this score line folding in, it's going to fold out. So it creates a little chair, I guess you would call it. That's where our image is going to go, so that it's going to pop up when we open the card up. Okay, so let's look at that again. So your score line on this piece, it goes across the middle, but the two on the sides are the ones that fold down, and the one that folds in, like we did this card, and then this little piece folds out. Okay, so instead of this folding down like this, okay, this piece is going to pop up and be folded. This score line is going to go this way. Okay, so that's what's creating the pop-up part of your card. So it's pretty easy. And then what I want you to do is we're going to put our adhesive on. So go ahead and fold this part down. So you should have it so that you've got, this is cut out now. Okay, if you put your pop-up piece in correctly, this part will now have a notch on it. All right, now we're just going to flip this over, and we're going to put some adhesive on the back of this. And I'm just going to go all the way around it, put one here. Okay, so now this is the bottom of the card basically, and I'm going to lay it. Here is my score line on the base of the card, and now this is the pop-up piece. This needs to be laid so that it matches up right with that fold, and leaving a little bit of a trim around the edge there. And then when you fold this over, it's going to pop up like this. But we need to adhere this part now. So we got the base on by putting adhesive on the bottom side. Then we laid this down. And then we're going to just fold this over. And we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to put our adhesive on this side. Then just fold your card down again. Okay, so now when you open up your pop-up card, it has the little pop-up piece right here. So that's created our base. Now we're going to put our images together. We're going to start with the snowman. I'm just going to move these pieces off. So you should have a silver or gray piece of the snowman. And then you're going to have a black layer. There'll be a pink layer, an orange layer, a white layer, and then the green and the red, and there is another piece of the silver or the gray, whichever you cut, another piece of black, which is this part of the top hat, and there's a little green trim piece that goes with the hat too. That's like the hat band trim. So these are all the pieces that we're going to have. We're just going to start layering this up. So this black goes on top of the silver. And you can tell this by looking at your Design Space file. Okay, so we're just going to take that black piece, goes right over the silver. You just want to line your edges up. And all this is doing is it's creating that little reflective shadow here on this part of the snowman. Okay, then we're going to have the pink layer, goes on top of that. These all stack on top of each other, and I'm just using the glue pen. You could use the tape runner if you want, but it's kind of delicate on some of the little edges, so I wanted to make sure that I use the glue pen to get glue up. So all I'm doing is matching the edges. Then the orange layer goes on top of that. I'm just adding the glue. Now all of these pop-up pieces, the base of the card works the same, and all the layers are like this. So it doesn't really matter that we're doing the snowman. All of them would go together similarly. So I've got that, and then we have front of the snowman goes on top. So when you start putting the snowman together, you start seeing that all those layers created the little highlight here, his cheeks and his nose and his eyes. Some of you are new to working with paper crafting or you haven't done a lot of layered type projects. So this is good practice for doing that. And once you see it done a couple of times, you're like, I got it now. Want to make sure you're lining up all your edges when you go to put it on so it looks right. So now we have the base of the snowman done, and then we need to decorate him. So the next piece that goes on would be the silver part of his hat is going to go on next. And there again, this is creating kind of a shadow effect. You could be using gray cardstock if you want it. I just had the silver foil cardstock. I had some scraps of that and thought, well, that would be perfect. Then there is his top hat has a little cutout here, and we're going to put that on. And when we do that, you're going to see that the silver again creates like a little shadow for his hat. And then there is a little piece of the trim that goes on his hat. So when you look at this it kind of goes like this. Okay, so it's a little wider on one end and narrow on the other. The narrow end goes here on the hat, and you'll see that there's a little notch there where you line that up, and then it just goes right across right there. Da-da-da-da. He's so cute. All right, and then we have his scarf. So I like to hold it with my tweezers and then use my glue pen, stick it together. Okay, set it right on. And then for this particular snowman, his mittens have a green trim to them. And the way they've done that is that we're going to put a green layer on first, matching up his thumbs there on with his mittens. And then the red layer goes on top. And the red layer is the actual color of his mitten, and then the green is the little trim on the mitten. Add your adhesive, and then it goes lining up on the top there so that it looks like the mitten has a little green edge to it. Do his other hand. Now this shape does have quite a few pieces to it, but it makes a nice dimensional shape for the front of our pop-up. Have his feet have little red shoes on them. The other shoe. Okay, and then our snowman is finished, and we will be putting him on, but I want to get the other pieces glued together first. So we've got the snowman together, so let's go ahead and do the little Merry Christmas real quick. So you have a piece of white, you have Christmas and Merry, and then you have this back layer. So we're going to put Christmas on first. And there again, I like to use my tweezers when I'm dealing with this. And this is one of those images that as I started to take it off of my mat, it was helpful to have the little Cricut spatula tool to help me lift this up so that none of it tore that way. Because it's pretty fine. I'm just putting the glue on it, and then I'm going to lay it down. Got it on, and there was a little dot there. Hopefully you grabbed it off of your mat that goes on top of that eye. If not, you could always just take a pen and color it in if you wanted. It really is a teeny tiny piece. That's why having these, this is from the Cricut Weeding Toolkit. I love these tweezers because they have a super fine tip on them, and they're great for working with this. I'm not even working with vinyl today. I'm working with paper, and I'm still using those. Tweezers are awesome. And then the Merry goes on top, like right here. Then this whole piece gets glued on top of the red. I'm going to use the tape runner on this. And you're just centering it within that red space so the red creates a border. And then we have this one. This one's a little more complicated to put together. There's two pieces going on here. So you have this background scallop layer, which we will add this top white layer to this, but we're going to add the images on it first before I do that. So you do have a little gold or yellow star, whatever you cut yours out of, goes at the very top above where these three pieces that look like a different type of star, and this little gold star goes right here, or the yellow star, whatever you cut yours out of, goes right here on top. Then the words joy go across here, and you can kind of see how I have them laid out. Okay, so you're going to pick pick those letters up and we're going to flip them over, and of course we're going to be adding our glue to it, to the back of them. And then where I'm lining this up is that star furthest to the right. I'm lining up the first edge of the Y right underneath that. And then we have the O. There again, I'm using my tweezers to help me place them because it just makes it a little bit easier. And then you have the J. Now you could use a little Xyron X sticker maker device if you wanted. I just found that for this one I was just going to use the glue pen. This is a great tool to have for doing any of these little fine works when you're working with paper crafting. So I always recommend you guys have this in your stash along with your tape runner. So you're going to lay that in, and then the 2 goes next. This is so pretty when you finish getting it on here. It's really nice. Okay, and then you have the word world. So there is a cutout, a little slit here, and the world goes kind of curved along that slit. So I'm going to put the D down here. I'll show you. Okay, so there's the D, and I kind of put it along the, pointing to the right. Then I'm going to take the W, and the W is going to go over here on the other side, also slightly at an angle, like so. And then the ORL will fit in between those. So now that we have Joy to the World on, then you have this branch, okay, that little fine branch. Can you imagine that our Cricut machines cut out such a delicate little thing? It cuts so beautifully. Okay, so then we're going to flip this over, and I'm going to gently brush adhesive along. I don't want to tear any of them. And then this goes just underneath that curved piece. And then you have this black piece that becomes the tree trunk. Okay, so it looks like this. We're just going to add that on there. And then you have 4 little Christmas ornaments that hang in red, that hang from the bottom of your tree. So you can just kind of lay those on. Okay, so now we have this piece is finished, and it goes on top of that scallop. So we can just flip this over and add our adhesive or tape runner on this one. Now I am going kind of around that little curve there with my tape runner, and I'm making sure I'm not putting the adhesive across where my little cutout of the stars is. And then you're just going to line that up, and we're going to leave a little scallop border around the edges of that piece. And then the last thing that we need to put together before we add the pieces to the card is whatever you cut. I ended up using the gold glitter paper, but you may have used yellow because it was just yellow in the file. And then there's a piece of red, and this is going to be on the front of our card. Now, because I used a piece of glitter paper and not a piece of cardstock, I need to put cardstock on top of glitter paper. Using your tape runner does not work very well on top of glitter paper. What I do is that's when I use my score tape, my double-sided adhesive tape, helps me put other material on top of glitter cardstock so it will stick. You could use a liquid glue too, but I don't like having to wait for liquid glue to dry. If you're doing any type of paper crafting, you really want to have this because it's great for putting boxes together and putting cards and envelopes together and so forth. Okay, so I'm just going to take the liner off of this. The other thing is this stuff tears really easily with your fingers, so you don't have to get out your scissors and have to cut it and trim it and all that good stuff. And it is super sticky, so it's really going to stick to this glitter cardstock easily. Okay, so now that I've got this on, then I want to line this up, and I'm using my Cricut craft mat. I really like having something with a grid underneath when I'm working on this, because this way I can line this up to make sure it is squared up, and then when I go to lay this on, I can kind of eyeball it there to make sure that I've got it squared up as well. Okay, so this is the front of the card, and now this piece goes here on the front of your card. So then we're just going to glue that on. Now if you want, you could put some foam tape on the back of this and pop this up off the front of your card if you want. Since I'm going to be mailing mine, I don't want to have the extra bulk, so I'm going to be gluing it down flat. So there is going to be the front of our card. So we're going to get our card out. We're going to put this down, and this part goes glued right here on top of this. I like to, since it's a little bit heavy, I just want to make sure I've got a good, I did it around and then I did it across the middle there, if you can kind of see where my glue is. And then I'm going to lay this down just like that. All right, so now we have the front of the card done, and now we're going to put the pieces for the inside in. So up at the top, we're going to put our piece that says Merry Christmas on it. Now, of course, if you wanted to do a different sentiment, you could change this up and cut something else out. If you would rather it not say Merry Christmas and say something else. Tape to it, and then I'm just going to put that on the top of the card like that. And then you have 3 snowflakes. Okay, so we're going to put the snowflakes on, and again, I'm going to use the glue pen for the snowflakes because they are very delicate and fine, and they're again awesome to see that the Cricut cut these out. So there is this part's on, and then what I'll probably do is go back and add like little rhinestones on top of these 3 snowflakes. That's what I will do with mine. But here we go. Here is our snowman that we put together, and now the snowman gets adhered on to this piece that sticks up. Okay, so see how I've got this part is leaning forward now, and this piece here on the front is where the snowman goes. I'm going to use double-sided tape for this. If you didn't have any double-sided tape, you could certainly just, use some of the adhesive tape and it would stick on it. I wouldn't use the liquid glue on that. You want something that's going to be substantial to hold this on. The other thing I wanted to mention was on the front of the snowman, there's his little mouth is right here. It's such a little small thing here. You can't really see his mouth, so I like to take my black Cricut pen and I'm just going to put some pen mark there where his little mouth is so it actually shows up. Now we're going to put this in front of that pop-up piece. You want to make sure that his feet are sitting just barely on top of the card. It's like his left foot is sticking up and the bottom foot toe point is sticking like on the edge of the card base. So we're going to put our adhesive on the back of this. And like I said, I'm going to use some double-sided tape because I want to make sure that it stays on really well. And you don't need a whole lot to hold it on, but you want enough that it is going to cover the pop-up part. And then the pop-up, I'm going to set it up here so that I can line it up and then make sure it's stuck down really well. Putting my fingers back here behind the hole to make sure I'm pushing it on there. Okay, so now we're just going to fold the card down. There is the front of our card, and there is our snowman pop-up. Super cute. All the pop-up cards work the same way. And let's put the envelope together real quick, and then once you make your cards, you will be ready to get these in the mail to your recipients. Okay, so here is the envelope, and the envelope has score lines on it, so we're going to fold along all those score lines. Now, this smaller flap here is the bottom of the envelope, okay, the smaller flap here. Then you have a round one up here, okay? That's the front of the closure of the envelope. So you've got this one, then you have this one's going to fold down, and then this one's going to fold down on top of this one. Just put adhesive on this side, on the left side of the fold, and I'm going to add a little piece right down here. Again, with an envelope that's going to be open and closed, you want to make sure that you have something sturdy, substantial holding it down. Here's the envelope. So we've got this flap up, the right flap goes down, then the left flap has some adhesive here and along the side, and then you're going to just fold it down like that. Now we have created the envelope that the card goes in. Goes in perfectly, and then this is the top flap that folds down, the rounded one. And then when I go to put these in the mail, I'll put some adhesive tape on the inside of this, and then I'll just take that off when I'm ready to seal the envelope. And then I am ready to get this in the mail. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you will work on some of the other cards as well. And they're so cute. Look at that. Joy to the world. Ta-da! Little snowman. Super cute. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have a lot more tutorials coming out. I always love comments. Leave me a message, share, like, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, and happy crafting.